What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Ralph's Real Reviews Disney Edition, and today we are going to go over the Three Caballeros. Now, before we get into that, I do want to say thank you because our last video got about 300 views in 24 hours. That is a new high for all of my videos, and our subscriber base is growing. We are now up to 17. Our goal was to get to 25 before Cinderella, so if you have not subscribed, please subscribe because we are on our way toward that goal. Now, The Three Caballeros was the second movie in his Latin American goodwill tour by the Disney company, following Saludos Amigos. If you haven't seen my Saludos Amigos review, go watch it real quick. It was not pretty. We are now in the era of these, what they're calling like anthology films, where you have a bunch of shorts that aren't necessarily connected to one another, but Disney released them as like a bundle to kind of make it seem like a movie. The Three Caballeros is similar to Saludos Amigos in that, right? There's a bunch of like mini sections that kind of follow an arc, but in Saludos Amigos, they seem completely disjointed, whereas in the Three Caballeros, they tend to follow some sort of story. The main gist is that it is Donald's 10th birthday, and he is getting presents from his friends in Latin America. I'm assuming some of the same friends that we got from Saludos Amigos. And they are sending him short stories and videos that are explaining Latin America to him and showing him different sides of Latin America. Along with those presents, we get Jose, who is a holdover from Saludos Amigos. He was in Saludos, he was introduced there, and he's back in the Three Caballeros. And then we are introduced to Panchito Pistoles, who is a Mexican bird who makes his debut here, and together they form the Three Caballeros. We're going to have a lot of fun getting into these rankings here because I think I'm higher on this than a lot of people are going to be. And when people see how low I was at Fantasia, I think that's going to be an interesting point for discussion. But we're going to go piece by piece, and I'm going to explain my thinking. That's the whole point of doing each and every one of these movies before the final tier list eventually is made. Starting in the animation category, we actually have the Three Caballeros in second, right behind Fantasia here. And the reason for that essentially is there's something new here. And I don't want to overlap the animation category with the historical significance category, but they do touch here. This was one of the first, if not the first, feature animated film that had both live action and animation happening on screen at the same time. So because of that, there is something new that you haven't seen in a Disney film up until this point, or really any film up until this point. That's going to be a big bump for the historical significance, but the question is, what does that really mean for the animation piece of it? And I will say, because they are playing with that medium that the other ones didn't really get to play with, they do have some sequences that are completely captivating visually. The animation working around the live action, or the live action working around the animation, whichever way that they had that process going, they had some sequences in which they animated live action things, or they had animation going around a set that was not drawn. And again, visually, it was stunning. Now, to compare it against Fantasia, it's really going to be which one do you want, right? And I'm going to say that the animation work in Fantasia, because it was set to music, and it just seemed more imaginative. I don't know. I guess it also bleeds into the Disney factor of it. I just feel like when I watch Fantasia, it is more colorful, more visually appealing, and has more sequences in different types of art styles. Whereas with the Three Caballeros, it plays with the medium in a new way, and it has some sequences that are great, but it also has some sequences that are very modern for the time. So I'm trying to, or modern isn't the right word. It has some sequences that are on par for the time, and because of that, I'm going to give it its due and put it high up on this list compared to its peers that are just more traditional animation. However, I'm not giving it the number one spot over Fantasia. Next, I have storytelling, where I have the Three Caballeros at 5, in front of Bambi but behind Snow White. It's hard with a movie like this, right? Because it's not really telling an overarching story. Okay, so I'm kind of conflicted on how to judge it that way. And pretty much what I ended up coming up with was, how engaging was it, right? Whether it's the shorts or the overarching narrative. When it comes to Saludos Amigos, I didn't find it engaging at all. I didn't find the shorts engaging. I didn't find the trip engaging. None of it. When it came to Bambi, I also kind of felt disengaged for most of that movie, which then is where I have the Three Caballeros. It does lose some points for not having one single overarching story. It's Donald's birthday. Okay, right? But I did find the shorts in the Three Caballeros to be engaging in and of themselves. You have Pablo the Penguin. I forgot the name of the boy with the flying donkey, but you have him and his flying donkey Burrito. And then again, you do have the introduction of Jose and Donald going to the beach and Panchito and all that stuff. It's engaging. It's engaging, and while I can't put it above Snow White in that respect, I do think that it was more engaging than the other two, which is why it lands at 5. Next, we are going to characters where I do have the Three Caballeros only at 6th, right above Saludos Amigos, but again behind Fantasia. When we go to the popularity test and we say, okay, can you name these characters? There is not an original character in the Three Caballeros that I think that people can name. Of course, there is Donald, right? But when I look at Jose is from Saludos Amigos, so I don't count him. The only real character that you're looking at that might be memorable to somebody is Panchito. And when I compare it against Fantasia, who is the next highest on this list, who do I believe is more likely to be named, Chernabog or Panchito? I feel like it's Chernabog. I could be wrong on that, right? There is the Epcot ride that maybe people know Panchito from that, but if I had to guess, I would say that Chernabog is the more identifiable character than Panchito. And the first on the channel, I'm actually going to change my mind here. I'm going to put Three Caballeros ahead of Fantasia, and here's why. When we talk about memorability, I think that argument still stands. But when we talk about strength of characters, I'm actually going to give it to the Three Caballeros because I feel like the original characters, Pablo the Penguin, Brito, and I can't even count the kid because I don't remember his name, but Panchito as well. These characters, for what they do in their movies, are extremely strong. Like, they're significant. They're fun, right? Whereas when I look at Fantasia, I don't know that any of the characters in and of themselves are that much fun outside of Chernabog. You could say the hippo and the crocodile, but I don't know, man. I'm just not grabbed by the characters in Fantasia. They don't speak, right? They're there for what they're there for, which is to be visually appealing. Yeah, no, I'm gonna give it to the Three Caballeros here. Next, we have the Disney factor, and the Three Caballeros is not moving on this one. It will be in 6th place, just ahead of Saludos Amigos, for the same reasons that Saludos Amigos was in 7th place to begin with. This doesn't necessarily feel like a Disney movie in and of itself. It's more of a Disney movie than Saludos Amigos. It does feel more like an informational piece, and because of that, it doesn't feel as magical as it should. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Three Caballeros at 6th here. Music is a hard one, and I'm actually going to put the Three Caballeros at 4th. It's just ahead of Fantasia and behind Dumbo, and the reason that this is hard is because not every song in the Three Caballeros was made for the Three Caballeros, but most of them were at least translated for the Three Caballeros, and the Three Caballeros, the main song of the movie, was made for the Three Caballeros. So I have to look at it from its peaks, right? We're going to look at the fact that while Fantasia did have not original music, a lot of it was engaging. The Three Caballeros does have engaging original music, so I have to use that. So in order to move it higher, I have to look at the peak, right? The peak and then kind of the longevity of the rest of it. The peak of Dumbo is Baby Mine. Can't compare the Three Caballeros to that. I love the Three Caballeros theme song, but it's not that. And then Dumbo does have other songs beneath that that are engaging and fun, whereas the Three Caballeros, the rest of them are not original. So I feel like it kind of slides right in there at that 4th slot between Fantasia and Dumbo. Another unofficial number, as we look at the box office success of the Three Caballeros, I believe the number online is 3.355 million, which adjusted for inflation is about $39,138,000, which puts it at 5th ahead of Saludos Amigos and Dumbo. Finally, we have historical significance, where I have the Three Caballeros at 3rd, behind Snow White and Pinocchio. And there's really 2 reasons. First, like I said earlier, this is the first full-length animated film that also incorporated live action at the same time. Snow White can't say that. Pinocchio can't say that. So when it comes to the historical significance of film, I could argue that thus far, outside of Snow White was the first animated film ever, right? But outside of Snow White, I could argue that this should be number 2. But then I'm also going to look at the historical significance to the company. And Donald Duck already existed, right, for the company. So it doesn't really introduce Donald Duck. Jose was already introduced in Saludos Amigos. But the idea of the Three Caballeros, for some reason, has stuck around. When you look at Epcot, they have the boat tour, right, with the Three Caballeros. When you look at DuckTales, the new version of DuckTales, the Three Caballeros do come back for the three, I think in 2 episodes. And they also had a spin-off TV show. So the Disney company has not forgotten the Three Caballeros at all. I still think that they are somewhat present, considering that I don't know that anybody could recognize the other two birds, or only real Disney fans could recognize the other two birds in the Three Caballeros. But because of that, the historical significance in film, as well as the historical significance for the company not being as dead as one might think, I'm going to put it behind Snow White and then behind Pinocchio, because I do feel like Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket, and When You Wish Upon a Star are still staples for the Disney company. That leads us to our tier list. And this is where things are going to get interesting, because I think if you were to stop right now and look at the numbers, I think Fantasia technically um, is considered by our rankings a better movie than the Three Caballeros. However, when it comes to the tier list, I have Fantasia on that Disney diehard scale, and I have the Three Caballeros on that Disney fan scale. And I will say that it's sliding, right? It's not as far and as distinct as those breaks make it seem. I do think that the Three Caballeros could be in either one. I could see why people would want to put it in Disney diehards. I absolutely can. And I will explain why I put it in Disney fans. For Fantasia, I could see why people would put it up in movie fans, right? And why I've already explained why I have it in Disney diehards. And then I look at a movie like Dumbo, which was also on the fence. I could have put Dumbo in Disney fans. I wanted to put Dumbo in Disney fans, but I put it in movie fans again for reasons that I already explained. So if you're looking for those explanations, please go back and watch, and then I'll explain those. Now let's talk about the Three Caballeros and why I have it in its rank of Disney fans. Again, this is going by suggestions, right? Everybody should watch this movie. Movie fans should watch this movie. Disney fans should watch this movie. Disney diehards should watch this movie. Or it's skippable. Nobody necessarily needs to watch this movie. The reason why I have it under Disney fans is this. A movie like Fantasia, while I could respect its technical artistry, I do not believe that it is something that just anybody can watch and enjoy, right? I think that really the only people who should are the diehards. Or, like I said, if this was a normal movie ranking, that category would be its niche. People who are artists. That is a movie for artists, okay? Dumbo, on the other hand, moved a little bit up my rankings because I think that it is a movie that is enjoyable for everybody, not just Disney fans. When it comes to the Three Caballeros, I feel like it's more on that brink of like Disney fans or like Disney diehards. Which one do I put it in? I could understand people being lower on it than I am and saying, hey, this is a movie for Disney diehards. But for me, I feel like this movie is enjoyable enough that a casual Disney fan can watch it and appreciate it, right? A casual Disney fan will appreciate seeing Donald on screen and getting up to his hijinks, even though it's a little bit weird at times, right? A casual Disney fan might have been to Epcot, right? And knows the Three Caballeros and understands that this is a movie, then this is where they came from, right? But more specifically and most importantly, a casual Disney fan can watch this and say, oh, this is where the idea for Mary Poppins came from. This is how they did Pete's Dragon, but this is where they did it first, right? So because of that, I think that this is a movie, if it was a little bit more boring, I could put it in the Disney diehards and say, well, if you're a diehard fan and you want to understand the history, then it's there for you for that reason. But I find the movie to be fun. I find the movie to be engaging enough. I think the music is really good. I think the shorts are really fun. I think the characters are really fun. So because of that, I put it in the casual Disney fans should watch it. If I can also acknowledge that it's not as technically masterful as a movie that might be below it. And yeah, that's where I stand. Thank you for watching. Let's continue to get these views up. Let's continue to get these subs up. I got about 300 of you watching my videos now, but only 17 of you are subscribing. So please, please, please continue to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to climb up, and let's get some discourse going in the comments. How do you feel about the Three Caballeros compared to some of the other films on this list? I am going to do maybe like a little check-in every 10 movies or so and look at our rankings and see where things stand and talk about those more. So this was movie number 7. We're going to be getting into movie number 8. Make sure you follow me on TikTok at Ralph's Rapid Review, and make sure you follow me on Instagram at Ralph's Review, so that you can know whenever I post here. And then, of course, subscribe. Thank you, guys.